With me now from Washington is roll call columnist Jon Allen. Jon, help me out here. Has nothing changed, or does Mike Pence simply not know what has changed?
I think it may be somewhere in between those things. I think what Mike Pence is trying to do and what folks around Donald Trump, without knowing what his final policy is going to look like, I think what they're trying to do is emphasize the things that they know will be the same, that there will be a wall, that he will put an emphasis on securing the border and trying to de-emphasize what would be perhaps the largest flip-flop on policy in anyone's political memory, going from a mass deportation force to essentially allowing the vast majority of the millions of undocumented immigrants in this country to stay here without fear of prosecution or deportation.
And Jon, if he moves to this middle ground, this more traditional GOP position, is he going to win more voters than he loses or lose more voters than he wins?
I'm not sure that it's going to make a huge difference in the final calculation. I mean, the folks who want to see a mass deportation force aren't going to vote for Hillary Clinton anytime soon. They're probably not going to vote for Gary Johnson anytime soon, the Libertarian, or the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein. So, you know, Trump is the best they can hope for. I think you're hearing that from, even though there's disappointment on the right, I think you're hearing from a fair number of people who are actually involved in the immigration fight that the idea that you're going to deport 11, 12, 13 million people is ridiculous. And so I don't think he's going to lose much support. I also don't think he's going to gain a whole lot of support with it.
Now, there's a new poll out showing that Hillary Clinton leads among minority voters by 85 points. So Donald Trump far behind here as he prepares to give this, that's in Pennsylvania, sorry, far behind here in a key battleground state as he delivers his speech on immigration. Is it too late for him, even if he does soften? I mean, what chance does he have of eating into Hillary Clinton's huge advantage among minority voters?
Well, I think, you know, given the basic political dynamics, you would think almost none. First of all, the average Democratic candidate running for president against the average Republican candidate running for president cleans up among African-American voters and Latino voters, particularly African-American voters, a little bit less so among Latino voters. Donald Trump has done pretty much everything he possibly could until the last couple of weeks to actively alienate minority voters. Now he's speaking as though he's attempting to do some sort of outreach. I think most folks believe that that's actually aimed at stemming the bleeding that he's having among moderate whites. We've seen a lot of moderate whites, particularly college-educated women, moving away from Donald Trump over the last couple of months. So this is a situation where he's got to say that he's making outreach. I think the likelihood of him making inroads is very small.
We've also got another surrogate controversy that we should talk about. Pastor Mark Burns, a Trump surrogate, tweeted a cartoon yesterday showing Hillary Clinton in blackface trying to win over African-American voters. Now, again, this is a Trump supporter. Does the candidate suffer? Should he have accountability over these actions of somebody who's not in the campaign but associated closely with it?
I mean, the problem for Donald Trump is that it's a surrogate reinforcing Donald Trump's message. The underlying problem here is that Donald Trump is saying you know, things that are outside the political norm, outside the political mainstream, outside of polite and acceptable society on a whole variety of issues involving race. He's accusing Hillary Clinton of being a bigot. So when his surrogate tweets something out that is offensive on racial lines, that reinforces the perceptions that Donald Trump is himself insensitive. So if this was something that had happened that had been out of touch with the Donald Trump narrative, it wouldn't have been a problem. But because it does reinforce that narrative, it does. And by the way, Pastor Mark Burns also said some pretty offensive things about Bernie Sanders and his Jewish faith earlier this year. This is a guy who's continually doing this.
Now, Jon, the first debate is less than a month away. We know quite a bit about how Hillary Clinton is preparing, but not so much about Donald Trump and his preparations. What version of Donald Trump do you think is going to show up at this debate? What are you expecting from him?
I actually think we've seen a lot of Donald Trump in debates, and mostly the debate Donald Trump has been pretty consistent. He's somebody who's willing to say bombastic things. He's not very worried about nuance, which I think has been one of his strengths, at least in terms of the Republican debates. People like to hear, voters like to hear sort of black and white arguments about things. They're not necessarily going to drill down to the third or fourth point on a public policy. At the same time, he has a tendency, because he speaks so freely, to say things that can alienate some groups of voters, and also has a tendency sometimes to show when he's, someone's gotten under his skin. But I think we know what to expect from him already.
All right, Jon Allen in Washington, thank you very much.
So good to see you.